This is Gabriel Sterling. I'm the Georgia Voting System Implementation Manager. I want to give you all an update of kind of where we stand and what we're looking at doing moving forward as we do several things in this state. We have special elections that have an election coming up on Tuesday, December 1st. We then also have the January 5th runoff that includes the two United States Senate races along with the Public Service Commission seats statewide, as well as other elections that were carried forward on that. As y'all saw on Friday, we did certify the election. The governor then sent the 16 electors' names up to DC in preparation for, I think, the December 8th cutoff for the December 14th Electoral College meeting. Upon doing that, that opened the door for the president and his team to request a recount, which they did so over the weekend via email. We had a meeting this morning with our own staff to figure out some of the final details around the processing and processes we have to do to get that recount done in an orderly, transparent fashion. We will be releasing more details of that later this afternoon. We want to have some discussions with the counties first to make sure they are in agreement and understanding with what we're going to be doing. So as we saw, the margin now stands at 12,760. We will move into the recount mode, which we'll have a specific starting time and a specific ending time. That's a decision that we're in the middle of making, but again, we want to have discussions with the counties first because they're the ones who are having to do the heavy lift of all this. Now, at the same time, some of our largest counties like Fulton, DeKalb, and Clayton, and even Clark and Oconee have elections coming up a week from tomorrow. So their ability to do some of this with Thanksgiving in the way is kind of guiding some of our thought processes on how we're going to do this. So that's the next steps we're going to be taking in Georgia. At the 4 o'clock press conference, I'll probably have some more specific details to give you. We are going to make sure that there's plenty of ability for monitors to be there to watch this process. Another thing that happened over the weekend, you all might have seen, was a press release essentially from the Republican Party of Georgia following on the governor's request that we do an audit of signature matches. And again, as we have been very explicit, everything we've done has followed the law. The audit we did was in the law. This recount we're doing is in the law. The certification is in the law. The review we did of random systems around several counties around the state of both the scanners and the ballot marking devices, those are our devices. We control those, so we can do those of our own accord. The ballots are, at this point now, become custody of the Superior Court judges and Superior Court clerks. So I believe that it's a little out of our situation on this to then say we're going to go with no specific evidence or explanation to go in and start pulling random ballots out to quote unquote look at. Who pays for this? What's the protocols around this? Is it the GBI? Is it our office? Is it the people who already did this one time doing it again? And I want to make something very clear. And under Georgia law, the entire absentee ballot process is to be open to the public. So every party, Republicans and Democrats and Libertarians and even as regular citizens, have the right, if they so choose, to view the process itself. Now, viewing signature match is kind of difficult because when you're doing signature match, you're looking at a screen which has a lot of personal identifying information on it. So that makes it a harder thing to do. But as I understand it, maybe one person in one county asked to review this. Both parties know the rules on this on the front end. So now coming up with a generalized grievance afterwards that there may have been an issue because the person that I wanted to win didn't is not a reason to open an investigation potentially. If a court has a path to give us to go down that, we will look at doing those. Again, we are still reviewing it with our attorneys. This is not a final statement on this. This is kind of where we're looking right now because we can't really see a legal path that makes any sense because if you open up investigations on generalized grievance without any evidence, that leaves it open for somebody else in the future to do the exact same thing. And we are investigating very specific things. It looks like we found a couple of family members of dead people who might have allowed them to try to vote for their dead relative. We're investigating those specifically. We have no specific evidence or accusation that I've seen yet from any of the affidavits or anything that says, we know in this county, this person did not do absentee ballot match or signature match properly. We have not seen that. We've seen no evidence of that. And we have no reason to believe that this would be anything off of this because another thing that's been said is it was, between 2 and 4% or 2 and 3% is the normal rejection rate for signature and signature match. That is simply not true. Historically, if you look at 2016, it was 0.23%. If you look at 2018, it was 0.16%, and this year it's 0.15%. And this year we have the addition of allowing for a cure period where if there's an issue with the signature, either missing the signature or a mismatched signature, the voter has the opportunity to come and bring their voter ID to prove they are who they say they are so they can have their vote counted. So we still had over 2,000 ballots either missing a signature or had a mismatched signature that were not counted this year. The 2 to 3% includes, at least from what we can figure out from watching people discuss this, the entirety of absentee ballots that were quote unquote not allowed. And the vast majority of those came in after the 7 p.m. deadline. And one of the things this office has done, both in the signature match and on absentee ballot deadlines, unlike Pennsylvania, where they had to extend both the deadline and then ignore postmarks even, because they said if it got there by that Friday, it was assumed it was postmarked on time, which is obviously a wide door open for potential voter issues and illegal voting. In Georgia, we lost in the lower court on that point, and they were trying to make us go through Friday with postmarked by Tuesday, but then we went to the 11th Circuit and overturned that. So this office has done a lot to defend the integrity of this election. And one of the things that was cited by some people is that there's really a widespread questioning of the outcomes of this election, but the widespread questioning has been pushed by people who have, they're angry, but they're lacking in evidence. We saw yesterday that even the president is distancing themselves now from an obvious member of their legal team in Sidney Barrow. So that's happening right now. And we anticipate, additional lawsuits now that we've reached the certification phase. We don't know when they're going to come. We see on social media people talking about blockbusters and krakens. And I want to remind everybody that krakens are myths. So we anticipate we will continue to follow the law and follow the process as we have done since the beginning. We had a very successful election on November 3rd. We had average 2-minute wait times. We had good processing. We got through the counting the ballots in a relatively normal time. It happened to be an abnormally close election. And anybody who can look at the political science of this can see specifically there were 8 counties, 6 metro, and then 2, Athens and Clark and Oconee, that in those 8 counties alone, President Trump received 19,000 fewer votes than Senator Perdue. Obviously, that covers the entire margin. There were over 20,000 people who voted in the state who chose not to vote in the presidential election at all. Again, that could feed into part of that. None of this is that odd looking in terms of if you're actually following what's happening in this state. Republicans still got 53% of all the state House votes, 54% of all the state Senate votes, and 51% of all the congressional votes. And if you take the combined votes in the jungle primary and the Senator Perdue's race, they were in first place in all of those. So again, I understand that there are people out there who are upset, who are listening to people who are also upset, but have so far shown a lack of evidence, at least in this state, of any widespread issues. We said before, and we'll say again, if somebody has an illegal vote they want us to track down, it's very binary. Either it was illegal or it wasn't illegal. So we will investigate those, and we continue to do so. We look at every affidavit. We have 23 investigators. We have hundreds of different claims that have come in both through our portal, through the hotline, and through information we're getting from the Republican Party mainly. And so we're looking at all of them. And they're all being taken as equally seriously as any other one and treated fairly and even handedly by our investigations division. But so far, we have not seen anything widespread. And I think we've been saying that. But again, it doesn't have to be widespread to affect the potential outcome of this election, although 12,670, which is, I believe, where we are now, is going to be a heavy lift to have that many votes flipped over. And the secondary question on the absentee ballot audit, there's no way to track those back to the ballots that were there. So the only remedy is to throw out legal ballots along with potentially illegal ballots if there's even an issue at all. And that's not a remedy that I think any court would sustain, as we saw in the documents in Pennsylvania and in Georgia, where the judges essentially tossed out many of these claims, because it is a heavy, heavy lift for people who follow the law and did legally vote. To have those votes then tossed out is not something I think any court in the land would look at doing. So with that, I want to go ahead and open it up to, well, actually one more thing. In the disinformation day, Dominion and Smartmatic, completely different companies. Smartmatic was truly out of Venezuela. Dominion is based in Denver. So, and Dominion, ES&S, and Smartmatic all bid in Georgia on this process to get the unified voting system we had. The top two finishers in that were ES&S and Dominion. So we brought them in for additional negotiations. And when we first were doing it, we were really pressuring them both to try to throttle down the costs. And we did. They both came down by several million each off their initial bid and get their best and final offer. And the winner of that was Dominion. We followed the Department of Administrative Services rules and laws around the Georgia procurement law. All these documents are available for viewing at the DOAS website. It was an open bid process. So the concept that somebody, either the governor or Secretary Raffensperger or his family members, were somehow paid off or kickbacks or anything like that, is flat out false and makes zero sense when you look at the very open, transparent process we had and went through. And we know that it was a good process because there was no challenge to the bid after it was awarded from either of the other two losing parties. So again, facts and reality fly in the face of these Facebook and Twitter accusations.